3 days passed before Taiho opened his eyes. He woke in a medical bay filled with soft light and gentle sounds. The walls were silver Valari design. Machines hummed around him, monitoring his heart, his breathing, his healing body. Hana sat beside his bed, her eyes red from lack of sleep. "Welcome back," she said softly. Taiho tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Hana handed him water, helped him drink. Slowly, the world came into focus. "The station?" he asked, mostly destroyed. But everyone survived. All the evacuation ships made it. The Hollow? Gone. The combined fleet destroyed most of their forces. The survivors retreated into deep space. Intelligence says they may never recover. Taiho nodded slowly. His body hurt everywhere, a dull, throbbing pain that reminded him he was still alive. He welcomed it. How long was I out? 3 days. The doctor said you should have died a dozen times. Multiple broken bones, internal bleeding, severe trauma. Hana shook her head. They do not understand how you survived. Taiho smiled weakly. Humans are stubborn. That is not stubbornness. That is something else entirely. The door opened. Sora entered, followed by Riva, Vask, Braun, Pyrrha, and representatives from every species that had attended the summit. They filled the small medical room, their faces showing a mixture of emotions, relief, confusion, awe. Riva spoke first. "We owe you our lives, Taiho. All of us. What you did on that station. I did what was necessary." Taiho interrupted gently. "Nothing more." Vask stepped forward. The Tauran commander who had once called humans children now looked at Taiho with something close to reverence. "I have fought in 17 battles," Vask said. "I have faced enemies that would make most species surrender at first sight. But I have never seen anything like what you did. One human against an army. And you won." "I did not win," Taiho corrected. "We won. You came back. You fought together. That is what saved us." "Not me." Braun shook his massive head. "Do not be humble, human. We saw the recordings from the station's cameras before the systems failed. We saw what you are capable of." He paused. "Why did you hide this from us?" The room fell silent. Everyone wanted to know. For 6 weeks, Taiho had appeared weak, harmless, just a simple diplomat. Now they understood that was never true. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "Because strength is not what I wanted to show you." "What do you mean?" Sora asked. "My people humans have survived terrible things. Wars that killed millions. Disasters that nearly ended our species. We developed strength because we had no choice. We learned to fight because fighting kept us alive." He looked around the room. "But survival is not the same as living. We could have become conquerors. We could have used our abilities to dominate, to destroy. Some of us wanted that. What stopped you?" Reva asked softly. "We learned that strength without purpose leads to emptiness. Power without wisdom leads to ruin. The strongest among us are not the ones who can kill the most. They are the ones who choose not to kill at all. Unless there is no other option." He looked at each of them in turn. "I came here as a diplomat because that is what I believe. In peace, cooperation, understanding. I did not show you my strength because it was not relevant. What mattered was building trust, finding common ground, helping you see each other as partners instead of enemies. But when the Hollow came, Pyrrha started. When the Hollow came, peace was no longer an option. They do not negotiate. They do not compromise. Against enemies like that, strength becomes necessary. So I did what I had to do." He paused. "I am not proud of it. But I would do it again." The room was silent. Finally, Braun spoke. "You could have escaped. You could have left with the evacuation ships. Why did you stay? Taiho smiled. Because you needed time. And because I truly believed that you would come back. I believed in the peace we had built. I believed in all of you. Sora felt tears forming in her eyes again. You risked your life for species you barely knew. Species that insulted you, doubted you, treated you as lesser. You were afraid, Taiho said simply. Fear makes people act in ways they later regret. I do not judge you for your fear. I judge you by your choices when the fear fades. He gestured around the room. And you chose to return. You chose to fight together. You proved that the Peace Summit was not a failure. It was the beginning of something greater. Reva stepped forward and took Taiho's hand in her four-fingered grip. What you have given us cannot be repaid. You have united 7 species that have fought for centuries. You have shown us that our differences do not have to divide us. You have, her voice broke. You have given us hope. Hope was always there, Taiho said. I just helped you see it. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed. The 7 species formed a permanent alliance, the first in recorded history. They called it the Harmony Council, named in honor of the Peace Summit that had brought them together. Reva was elected its first leader. She accepted the position with humility and grace. The Tauren and Nava signed a treaty over the disputed planet. They would share it just as Taiho had suggested. Families from both sides returned home. Children who had never known peace grew up playing together. The Keth redirected their military toward protecting weaker species from threats like the Hollow. Braun personally led the defense forces, his warriors now fighting for justice instead of conquest. The Miri and Aran collaborated on new technologies, sensors that could detect hollow ships from across the galaxy, shields that could withstand their weapons. Science replaced fear. The Drell opened their libraries to everyone. Thousands of years of wisdom became available to all species. The past was no longer forgotten. It was studied, learned from, remembered. And humanity? Humanity was no longer seen as weak. Word spread throughout the galaxy about what Taiho had done. Stories were told of the human who had fought an army alone, who had stayed behind so others could escape, who had believed in peace until the very end, and then unleashed a power that none had foreseen. Other species began reaching out to humanity. Alliances formed. Trade agreements were signed. Humans were invited to join councils, lead missions, advise governments. They were no longer children on the galactic stage. They were respected. Taiho recovered slowly. Hana stayed by his side throughout his healing, as she had for years. When he was finally strong enough to walk, they returned to the observation deck of a new Station 1, built by the Harmony Council to replace the destroyed summit site. Sora found them there, staring at the stars. What will you do now? She asked. Taiho thought about it. There are other conflicts in the galaxy, other species that need help finding peace. I suppose I will go where I am needed. You could stay here, Sora suggested. The council would welcome you. He smiled. I appreciate that. But peace is not something you achieve once and then forget. It requires constant work, constant attention. There are others out there suffering the way your people suffered. I want to help them too. Sora nodded. She understood. Then I will come with you, she said. Taiho looked at her in surprise. You would leave your people? Your position? My people are safe now, and I have learned more from you in 2 months than I learned in 200 years of training. If you will have me, I would like to continue learning. Hana laughed. Looks like you have a new partner, Taiho. Taiho smiled, a real smile, warm and genuine. It seems I do. They stood together on the observation deck, 3 individuals from different worlds, united by a shared purpose. Behind them, the Harmony Council met for its first official session. Delegates who had once been enemies now sat as allies. working together to build a future none of them had dared to imagine. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the Hollow watched. They had lost this battle, but they were patient. They would return one day, stronger than before. When that day came, they would find something waiting for them. Not just humans, not just the 7 species, but a galaxy. United, a galaxy that had learned the true meaning of strength. And they would learn that harmony, when defended by those willing to sacrifice everything, was a force that even the shadows could not overcome. The end. The Hollow soldiers stood frozen in the doorway. They had conquered dozens of worlds. They had defeated armies that numbered in the millions. They had never known fear. Until now. Taeho looked at them with eyes that had changed. The gentle diplomat was gone. In his place stood something older, something forged in fire and blood and centuries of human survival. The first Hollow soldier raised his weapon to fire. Taeho moved. It was not normal movement. It was something faster, something impossible. One moment he was standing by the console. The next moment he was among them. His hand caught the first soldier's weapon and twisted. Metal screamed. The soldier's arm broke with a wet crack. Before the Hollow could react, Taeho spun and drove his elbow into the second soldier's throat. The creature collapsed, choking. The remaining soldiers opened fire. Taeho was already somewhere else. He rolled beneath the energy beams, grabbed a broken piece of metal from the floor, and threw it with deadly accuracy. It struck the third soldier's mask, shattering the visor and the face beneath it. 3 down. 7 left. They surrounded him. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. Any normal being would have surrendered. Any sane person would have known they were outmatched. Taeho smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of something ancient and dangerous, a predator, remembering what it truly was. You should not have come here, he said softly. The Hollow attacked together. What followed was not a battle. It was a lesson. Taeho moved through them like water through stone. Every strike was precise. Every movement served a purpose. He did not waste energy. He did not show mercy. He broke bones, crushed armor, and left them gasping on the floor. In 30 seconds. It was over. 10 Hollow soldiers lay around him, some unconscious, some dead, all defeated. Taeho stood in the center of the carnage, breathing slowly. His hands were stained with blood, theirs, not his. His clothes were torn, but he was uninjured. He picked up one of their communication devices and spoke into it. This is Taeho, human diplomat. Your assault team has failed. I suggest you withdraw while you still can. Silence. Then a voice replied, cold, mechanical, without emotion. One human cannot stop us. We will destroy the station. We will find the evacuation ships. We will end everything. You are welcome to try, Taeho said. But I should warn you, I am not just a diplomat. And I am very, very tired of being polite. He crushed the device in his hand. Elsewhere, on the evacuation ships, Hana listened to the communication with wide eyes. She had always known Taeho was special. She had worked with him for 5 years, seen him calm the most heated arguments, solve the most impossible problems. But she had never seen this. She had never known what he truly was. Sora stood beside her, trembling. What is happening? What is he doing? Hana's voice was barely a whisper. Surviving. The way humans have always survived. On the observation screen, they watched the station. Hollow ships continued their attack, but something was wrong. Their formations were breaking. Their fire was chaotic. Something inside the station was causing problems they had not expected. Taeho. He moved through the corridors, like a ghost. Every system the Hollow tried to control, he sabotaged. Every team they sent, he destroyed. He knew the station better than they did. He had studied its blueprints during sleepless nights. memorized its pathways, understood its weaknesses. He turned the station itself into a weapon. Doors sealed behind hollow soldiers, trapping them in airless rooms. Power grids overloaded, cooking their electronics. Emergency systems vented sections into space, taking invaders with them. The Hollow had never faced anything like this. They conquered through overwhelming force and superior numbers. But Taiho did not fight fair. He fought like a human, clever, adaptable, and utterly ruthless when necessary. Deep in the station, he found the main engine room. The reactor was still active, still producing power. If he could overload it, the explosion would damage the entire Hollow fleet, but it would also kill him. Taiho stood before the reactor. Considering his options, he thought about the peace talks, about the progress they had made, about Vosk learning to listen, about Pyrrha learning to forgive, about Braun learning that strength could protect instead of destroy. He thought about Sora, and the hope in her eyes when she realized peace was possible. He thought about Hana, his loyal friend who had followed him to the edge of the galaxy. He did not want to die, but he understood what was at stake. The door behind him exploded. More hollow soldiers poured through 20 this time, maybe more. They had learned from their mistakes. They surrounded him completely, weapons raised. Taiho looked at them calmly. "You know," he said, "my people have a saying. When you corner a wolf, you do not catch it. You only make it angry." The Hollow commander stepped forward. He was taller than the others, his armor marked with symbols of rank. "You have killed many of my soldiers. Impressive for a human. But you are one. We are many. This ends now." Taiho nodded slowly. "Yes, it does." He moved his hand toward the reactor controls. But before he could touch them, something unexpected happened. An explosion rocked the station, but not from inside. From outside, the Hollow commander's communication device crackled with panicked voices. "Commander, enemy ships. We are under attack." "What? From whom?" "All of them. The Volari, the Keth, the Tauren, everyone. They came back." Taiho laughed. It was genuine, surprised, almost joyful. The peace summit had worked. The 7 species were fighting together, not against each other, but against a common enemy. For the first time in history, they had united, and they had come back for him. The Hollow commander turned back to Taiho with fury in his mechanical voice. "This changes nothing. You will still die." "Maybe," Taiho agreed. "But so will you." He activated the reactor's emergency containment, not to overload it, but to seal the engine room completely. The magnetic locks engaged. The Hollow soldiers were trapped inside with him. Outside, the combined fleet tore through the Hollow ships. The Keth warships led the charge, their massive cannons blasting through enemy shields. The Lari cruisers provided support fire. Tauren interceptors weaved between the chaos, targeting weak points. Nova fighters screamed through space, their pilots fighting with the passion of warriors defending their home. Even the Miri and Orin contributed, the Miri disrupting Hollow communications with electronic warfare, the Orin hacking their navigation systems and sending them crashing into each other. The Hollow had never faced a united enemy. They did not know how to respond. One by one, their ships fell, and in the engine room, Taiho fought his final battle, not to win, but to hold. Every minute he kept the Hollow occupied was another minute the fleet gained advantage. Every soldier he defeated was one less threat to those he cared about. When the reinforcements finally broke through the sealed door, they found him standing in the center of the room, surrounded by fallen enemies. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His arm hung at a wrong angle. One eye was swollen shut, but he was alive, and he was smiling. Zor was the first to reach him. She caught him as his legs finally gave out. "You came back," he whispered, Of course we did, she said, tears streaming down her silver face. You taught us what it means to fight for something greater than ourselves. How could we abandon you? Taiho closed his eyes. For the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to rest. The Peace Summit was in its 6th week when the shadows came. It started as a small warning, a distant signal from the outer sensors. One of the station's technicians noticed it first. A fleet was approaching. Not from any of the 7 species. Something else. Something that had been waiting in the dark spaces between stars. The hollow dot, no one knew where they came from. They appeared 30 years ago, attacking colonies on the edge of known space. They took no prisoners. They made no demands. They simply destroyed everything in their path and vanished before anyone could respond. The 7 species had fought the Hollow separately. Each had lost. The Hollow seemed to know their weaknesses, their technology, their strategies. It was as if they had been watching for a long time. Now they were coming to the station. Reva received the warning in the middle of a meeting. Her silver skin went pale. She stood up slowly, her 4 hands trembling. We must evacuate, she said. The Hollow are 2 hours away. Their fleet is large. We cannot defend this station. Panic spread through the room. Vask jumped to his feet. How did they find us? This location was secret. It does not matter how, Braun growled. What matters is survival. We need to leave. Now. The Miri delegate's tank bubbled with alarm. Our transport ships are too slow. We will not escape in time. The Aran whispered in fear. The Nava shrieked and flapped their wings. The Drell remained silent, their ancient eyes dark with resignation. Taiho stood quietly in the corner, watching the chaos. Hana moved to his side. Taiho, we need to go. The shuttle bay is wait, he said softly. She looked at him. Something had changed in his eyes. The calm was still there, but beneath it was something else. Something harder. Something cold. Taiho? How many evacuation ships are there? He asked. Hannah checked her device. 12. But they can only hold 200 passengers each. There are nearly 3,000 people on this station, delegates, staff, families, so not everyone can escape. No. Taiho nodded slowly. He walked toward the center of the room, where the delegates were still arguing. Listen to me, he said. No one heard him. The voices were too loud. Listen to me, he shouted. The room went silent. Everyone stared at him. In 6 weeks, Taiho had never raised his voice. Not once. Panicking will not save us, he said firmly. We have 2 hours. That is enough time to organize an evacuation if we work together. There are not enough ships, Pyrrha cried. We cannot save everyone. Then we save as many as we can, Taiho replied. Children first. Then the elderly. Then everyone else. We load the ships calmly and quickly. No pushing. No fighting. Vask shook his head. You expect us to cooperate. Now, when death is coming? Taiho looked at him directly. Yes, because that is what separates us from the Hollow. They destroy without thought. We choose differently. We choose to help each other, even when it is hard. Especially when it is hard. Braun stepped forward. I will help. My people will organize the loading. Sora moved to stand beside Taiho. I will coordinate communications. Tell me what you need. One by one, the others joined. The Miri offered their scientists to repair any damaged systems. The Aran used their dark vision to search hidden areas for survivors. The Nava flew through the corridors, spreading messages faster than any machine. For the next 90 minutes, the station transformed into a machine of cooperation. Taiho directed everything. He seemed to be everywhere at once, helping carry supplies, calming frightened families, solving disputes with a few quiet words. Hana stayed by his side, translating, organizing, working until her hands shook with exhaustion. The first ships launched. Then the second. Then the third. But the Hollow were faster than expected. The first explosion shook the station like an earthquake. Lights flickered. Alarms screamed. The Hollow had arrived early. On the observation screens, everyone saw them, dark ships with no markings, moving with terrible precision. They surrounded the station like predators circling wounded prey. "We are out of time," Riva said, her voice breaking. Only 4 evacuation ships remained. Hundreds of people were still waiting in the shuttle bay. Tahoe watched the Hollow fleet on the screen. His expression was unreadable. "Get everyone on the remaining ships," he said. "Pack them tight. I do not care if it is uncomfortable. Get them out. What about you?" Sora asked. "I will stay." Hannah grabbed his arm. "Tahoe, no. You cannot. Someone needs to keep the station's defenses running," he said. "Someone needs to buy time for the ships to escape. I can do that from the control room. You will die." Tahoe smiled. It was a sad smile, but also peaceful. "Maybe, or maybe I will find another way. But right now, those families need a chance. I can give them that chance." Before anyone could argue, the second explosion hit. A section of the station tore apart, venting into space. Screams echoed through the corridors. Tahoe did not waste another moment. He ran toward the control room, his footsteps steady and sure. Sora tried to follow, but Braun held her back. "Let me go," she shouted. "He cannot face them alone." "He made his choice," Braun said quietly. "We must make ours." "Get on the ship, Commander." "That is an order." Tears streamed down Sora's silver face. She had known Tahoe for only 6 weeks, but in that time, he had changed everything, her beliefs, her understanding, her hope for the future. And now he was walking towards certain death. In the control room, Tahoe activated the station's remaining weapons. They were old, weak compared to Hollow technology, but they would slow the enemy down. He fired. The first Hollow ship took damage. Then the second. The fleet hesitated, surprised by the resistance. On the shuttle bay, the last 4 ships launched. Hannah was on one of them, her face pressed against the window, watching the station grow smaller. "Come on, Tahoe," she whispered. "Find a way. Please find a way." Inside the control room, alarms blared. The Hollow had breached the outer hull. Tahoe could hear them coming, heavy footsteps, strange clicking sounds, the hiss of cutting torches. He checked the station's power levels. Enough for one more blast. He aimed the main cannon at the lead Hollow ship and fired. The explosion was massive. The lead ship broke apart, crashing into 2 others. For a moment, the Hollow fleet was in chaos. The evacuation ships jumped to hyperspace. They were safe. Tahoe leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. The control room door exploded inward. The Hollow poured through creatures in black armor, their faces hidden behind masks that showed no emotion. They moved like machines, precise and deadly. Tahoe stood up slowly. For the first time in 6 weeks. He was not calm, that he was something else entirely. And as the Hollow raised their weapons, they saw something in the humans' eyes that made even them hesitate. It was not fear. It was recognition. As if he had been waiting for this moment all along. 3 weeks had passed since Tahoe arrived at the station. The talks were difficult. Every day brought new arguments, old wounds reopened, and threats that made the guards reach for their weapons. But Tahoe never gave up. He woke before everyone else and slept after everyone else. Hannah worried about him. She had known Tahoe for 5 years, ever since they served together in the diplomatic corps back on Earth. She had never seen him push himself this hard. "You need to rest," she told him one morning. "You look terrible." Tahoe smiled weakly. I will rest when they trust each other. That could take years. Then I will work for years." Hannah shook her head, but said nothing more. She knew that look in his eyes. Once Taiho decided something, nothing could change his mind. That day, the Tauren and the Nava nearly came to blows. It started over a small planet on the border between their territories. Both claimed it. Both refused to give it up. Vask, the Tauren commander, stood up, his shell clicking with anger. "That planet belongs to us. Our ancestors died defending it." The Nava delegate, a female named Pyrrha, spread her feathers in challenge. "Your ancestors stole it. The planet was ours first." "Lies! Truth!" Guards moved forward. Weapons powered up. The other delegates backed away, expecting violence. Taiho stepped between them. Everyone stopped. "Please," Taiho said calmly. "Sit down. Both of you." "Move aside, human," Vask growled. "This does not concern you." "It concerns me because I am here to help," Taiho replied. "If you fight, everything we have worked for will be destroyed." "Is one planet worth that?" "It is not about the planet," Pyrrha hissed. "It is about respect. It is about justice." Taiho nodded. "I understand. You both feel wronged. You both feel that your people deserve recognition. But tell me, if you fight today, what happens tomorrow? More death, more hatred, and your children will inherit your war, just as you inherited the war of your parents." Vask's eyes narrowed. "You speak of things you do not understand." "Perhaps," Taiho admitted. "But I know loss. I know what it feels like to bury those you love because of conflicts that started before you were born. I know the weight of carrying anger for generations." He paused. "I also know that it does not have to be this way." Slowly, Vask sat down. Pyrrha followed. The tension in the room eased, though it did not disappear. Taiho spent the next several hours talking with both sides. He did not offer solutions. Instead, he asked questions. He learned that the planet had resources both species needed. He learned that families from both sides had lived there before the war. He learned that beneath the anger, there was grief. By evening, he had a proposal. What if you shared the planet? He suggested. Divide the resources equally. Allow families from both sides to return. Create a joint council to manage disputes. Vask frowned. "Share? With them?" "With each other," Taiho corrected gently. "Not as enemies, but as neighbors. The planet is big enough. Your people do not have to live in fear." Pyrrha tilted her head, considering. "It has never been done before." "Then it will be the first time," Taiho said. "Every tradition started somewhere. Every peace began with someone brave enough to try." The room was quiet. Finally, Vask spoke. "We will consider it." It was not a yes, but it was not a no. For the first time in centuries, the Tauren and Nava had not ended a meeting with threats. Word spread quickly through the station. The Keth commander, whose name was Braun, approached Taiho that night. He towered over the human, his massive body blocking out the light. "You stopped a war today," Braun said. "I delayed a war," Taiho replied. "Only they can stop it." Braun studied him. "You are not afraid of me. Should I be? Most species are. We are built for fighting. We have crushed armies." Taiho looked up at the giant. "I do not doubt your strength. But strength alone does not make someone frightening. It is what you choose to do with that strength that matters." Braun was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that shook the walls. "You are strange, human. I think I like you." From that day forward, Braun sat closer to Taiho during meetings. He did not say much, but his presence was a message to the others. The human had earned the respect of the KETH.SOR They watched all of this with growing curiosity. She had been assigned to God Taiho, but more and more, she found herself wanting to understand him. She reported to Riva every night. "He is unusual," Sora said. "He never raises his voice. He never threatens. Yet somehow, he makes people listen." Riva nodded thoughtfully. "Humans are a mystery. They have no natural weapons, no claws, no venom, no armor. They are not particularly fast or strong. By all logic, they should have died out long ago. But they did not. No, they survived. And now they travel among the stars, just like us." Riva paused. "Perhaps there is something to them we do not see." As the weeks continued, small breakthroughs happened. The Miri agreed to share scientific data with the Auran. The Drell offered wisdom from their ancient libraries. The Nava apologized to the Tauran for a massacre that happened 200 years ago, the first apology in the history of their conflict. Through it all, Taiho worked. He learned to read Valari body language. He memorized Keth customs. He studied Miri biology so he could understand their perspective. Hannah translated endlessly, her voice growing hoarse from hours of speaking. One evening, Sora found Taiho alone in the garden, a small room filled with plants from different worlds. He sat on a bench, staring at a flower that glowed softly in the dark. "May I sit?" she asked. Taiho gestured to the space beside him. They sat in silence for a while. "You have changed things," Sora finally said. "People are talking. Not with anger, but with hope. I did not think that was possible." "It is not me," Taiho said quietly. "They wanted peace. They just needed permission to try." Permission? Everyone was waiting for someone else to take the first step. They were afraid of looking weak. I gave them a reason to step forward together. Sora looked at him. "Where did you learn this? How do you know so much about conflict?" Taiho's eyes grew distant. "My people have a long history of war," he said. "We have hurt each other in ways I cannot describe. But we also learned to heal. It took time, generations, but we learned. And now you bring that knowledge to us." "I bring hope," Taiho corrected. "The rest is up to you." That night, Sora did not report to Reva. Instead, she stayed in the garden long after Taiho left, thinking about his words. For the first time in her life, she believed that peace might actually be possible, and she wondered what else the humans were hiding beneath their calm, quiet smiles. The stars looked cold from the observation deck of the Valari station. 7 species had gathered here, each one different from the other, each one carrying the weight of old wars and broken promises. They had fought for centuries. Planets had burned. Billions had died. Now, they were tired. The Valari were tall beings with silver skin and 4 arms. They moved with grace and spoke in soft tones. Their leader, a female named Riva, had called this meeting. She believed peace was possible. Many thought she was a fool. The Tauran were smaller, with hard shells covering their bodies like armor. They trusted no one. Their commander, Vask, sat with his arms crossed, watching everyone with sharp yellow eyes. He had lost 2 sons in the last war. Peace meant nothing to him anymore. The Miri floated in tanks filled with blue liquid. They had no legs, only long tentacles that moved like silk in water. They were scientists, thinkers, dreamers. But even dreamers could hold grudges. The Keth were massive, standing 3 meters tall with muscles that could crush metal. They breathed through vents on their necks and spoke in deep, rumbling voices. War was their history. Peace was a foreign word. The Auran were thin and pale, with eyes that saw in complete darkness. They lived underground on their home world and rarely came to the surface. They whispered instead of talking. The Nava had feathers instead of hair, bright colors covering their bodies. They could fly short distances and were known for their quick tempers. They had started 2 of the 5 great wars, The last species, the Drell, had scales like reptiles and moved on 4 legs. They were old, perhaps the oldest species in the known galaxy. They had seen empires rise and fall. They said little, but watched everything. These 7 species sat in a circular room, surrounded by screens showing their dying worlds. Riva stood in the center, her silver skin glowing under the lights. "We cannot continue this way," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. "Our children ask us why we fight. We have no good answers. The resources we waste on weapons could feed our people. The soldiers we bury could have been teachers, healers, builders." Vask laughed bitterly. "Pretty words, Reva, but words do not stop missiles. Words do not bring back the dead. Then what will?" Reva asked. "More war? More death? When does it end, Vask? When we are all gone?" The room fell silent. No one had an answer. It was then that the door opened. A human walked in. He was average height, with black hair and dark eyes. He wore simple clothes, a gray jacket over a white shirt. Nothing special. Nothing threatening. He moved quietly, almost carefully, as if he did not want to disturb the air around him. Behind him came a woman. She was shorter, with long black hair tied back. She carried a small device in her hand and looked around the room with curious eyes. The 7 species stared at them. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only made contact 50 years ago. Their planet was small, their technology basic. They had no great fleets, no powerful weapons. By all measures, they were weak. But they had one quality that made them valuable. They were neutral. They had no history with any of the 7 species. No old wounds. No grudges. No debts. Reva had invited them. "This is Taiho," she announced. "He will serve as our mediator. And this is Hana, his translator." Taiho bowed his head slightly. "Thank you for allowing me to be here," he said. His voice was soft, polite. "I understand that trust is difficult. I am not here to tell you what to do. I am here to help you talk to each other." Vask leaned forward. "A human? You bring a human to solve our problems? They are children compared to us. Their species still fights among itself." Taiho did not react to the insult. His expression remained calm. "You are right," he said. "We are young. We have much to learn. But perhaps that is why I can help. I have no stake in your conflicts. I gain nothing from your wars. I only wish to see peace." "Why?" asked the Keth commander, his voice like rolling thunder. "Why does a human care about our peace?" Taiho thought for a moment before answering. "Because I have seen what war does," he said. "My people have fought many wars. We have hurt each other in terrible ways. I do not want others to suffer as we have suffered." Hannah stepped forward. "I will translate for any species that needs it," she said. "Please speak freely. Everything said here stays here." The meeting began slowly. Each species stated their concerns. The Tauran wanted security guarantees. The Nava wanted resource rights. The Keth wanted respect. The Miri wanted scientific cooperation. The Aran wanted to be left alone. The Drell simply watched and listened. Ho listened to everyone. He did not interrupt. He did not judge. When someone finished speaking, he would nod and ask simple questions. "Why do you feel that way?" Or, "What would make you feel safe?" Or, "Can you help me understand?" Hours passed. Then days. Teho slept little. Hannah brought him food that he barely touched. He spent every moment studying the history of each species, learning their languages, understanding their fears. At night, he walked the station alone, looking out at the stars. Sor, a young Valari officer, was assigned to watch him. She found him one night on the observation deck. "You do not sleep," she said. Taeho smiled. Neither do you. I am watching you. It is my duty. And what have you learned? Sora hesitated. You are strange, she admitted. You work harder than anyone. You ask nothing for yourself. You show no anger when others insult you. Why? Taeho looked at the stars. Because anger does not help, he said. These people are afraid. Fear makes us say and do terrible things. If I become angry, I become part of the problem. If I stay calm, maybe I can be part of the solution. You truly believe peace is possible? I believe it is the only option, Taeho said. War is easy. Peace is hard. But hard does not mean impossible. Sora watched him for a long moment. There was something in his eyes she could not understand. A depth, a weight, as if he carried secrets too heavy to share. She said nothing more that night. But for the first time in her life, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, there was more to humans than she had been told. The fragile alliance had begun.